Welcome to RISK66 accelerated training video on loss development factors. I'm Tim Coomer. Let's get started. A loss development factor is a factor or a number that an actuary applies to current losses to estimate ultimate losses. Current losses times LDF equals ultimate losses. The ultimate cost of claims is not known for several years after the close of the policy period. LDFs are used to project additional cost associated with claims from each period. This quantifies late developing claims and losses that are reported late. These are called incurred but not reported losses, or IBNR. Loss development factors are computed based on time, type of coverage, and incurred or paid method, where time is the length of time from the start of the policy period to the date on which the losses are evaluated for that policy period. Type of coverage would be workers' compensation or automobile liability or some other line of coverage. And incurred or paid are two methods that an actuary uses to compute loss development factors, which will be covered later in this video. Loss development factors applied to reported losses are selected based on time elapsed between the beginning of the policy period and the date of the most recent evaluation. The closer the evaluation date is to the period effective date, the larger the loss development factor needed. Conversely, as the period matures, the loss development factor approaches 1. Loss development factors vary significantly by coverage. For example, loss development factors for workers' compensation are very different from products liability. This is due to the different rates at which claims mature. Differences in policy type, claims made versus occurrence, result in different loss development factors. Incurred factors are applied to reported or incurred losses, which is defined as case reserves plus paid losses, and paid factors are applied to paid losses. Paid factors are usually higher than incurred factors and have a longer tail because case reserves are not included. As you can see in this example, at 36 months, the losses were evaluated as $250,000 paid and $400,000 incurred. As a result, after the actuary completes their analysis, the paid LDF is 2.0 and the incurred LDF is 1.25. So theoretically, whether we're using paid or incurred losses, they both develop to an ultimate loss amount of $500,000. This is a sample table of loss development factors. On the left, under the column titled Months, are the months of loss development. Again, this is the number of months from the policy inception date to the date on which the losses are evaluated. Under the table titled Incurred are loss development factors for workers' compensation, automobile liability, general liability, and products liability. If you compare these factors to the ones in the table titled Paid, you can see there is a significant difference between paid and incurred loss development factors during the first few years of development. As the policy matures and the difference between incurred losses and paid losses narrows, so does the difference in incurred and paid loss development factors. First, some definitions. The evaluation date. This is the date on which the loss run or the loss report is based or generated. Paid loss, the actual amount paid on a claim as of the evaluation date. Reported or incurred loss, the total of paid plus reserves on a claim as of the evaluation date. Months of development, the time from the beginning of the policy period to the evaluation date. As you can see in this example, the loss run was produced 24 months after policy inception. So the months of development is 24 months. We can usually find this date on the loss run itself, and usually we have totals at the bottom of the loss run showing the total paid and total reserves for that loss run. Loss development factors, whether they be incurred or paid, are used to estimate the ultimate incurred losses. If we are using incurred loss development factors, then we multiply that by the reported or incurred losses. If we're using paid loss development factors, we multiply that factor by paid losses. But theoretically, we should wind up in the same place with an estimate of the ultimate incurred losses for that policy period. Sometimes you may not have sufficient data to compute unique loss development factors. In these cases, you will often turn to industry development factors that are available through NCCI, AM Best Aggregates and Averages, ISO, brokers, actuaries, or insurance companies. We typically refer to these factors as benchmark factors. It is important to use a loss development factor that has been published or calculated within the last year. Utilizing out-of-date loss development factors will lead to erroneous results. When utilizing a loss development factor, you need to know whether the factor was computed using a certain loss limit or loss retention, or was the factor computed using unlimited losses. Loss development factors computed using limited losses generally are smaller than unlimited factors as time progresses. This is due to a smaller loss tail because of large claims being capped. Here in this diagram, we show loss development factors at different lengths of development for different loss retentions or loss levels. Loss triangles are explained in a separate video, but here we show you a quick look at a loss development triangle. Unique loss development factors based on the company's own historical triangles can produce more reliable and valid projections than industry factors if the data used to construct the triangles are sufficiently credible. Credibility will depend primarily on the amount of data available. Loss triangles are specific to the organization and their industry. Benchmark loss development factors are coverage specific, that is, workers' compensation or products liability, and will not reflect the unique characteristics of a single company and its industry. When you're using benchmark data, it may include data for small companies, large companies, different industries. But when you use your own company data to develop unique loss development factors, you will wind up with a more credible and useful analysis. It is important to remember that irrespective of how the factors are determined, they must be applied appropriately. Failure to apply loss development factors appropriately can produce unreasonable results with high variances from actual results. The following slides explore 4 common mistakes in applying loss development factors. First, using the wrong type of loss development factor. When reviewing notes or industry data, it can be easy to lose track of whether a loss development factor is a paid factor or an incurred factor. This sometimes leads to the use of a paid loss development factor on incurred loss data, or vice versa. The resulting estimates will be highly erroneous. Be sure to confirm that you use the appropriate type of factor. Second, applying incurred loss development factors incorrectly. A common mistake is applying an incurred loss development factor to only the open case reserves or a few selected open claims. Incurred loss development factors are calculated based on the total accident year experience and how this experience develops over different evaluations for several accident years. The factors, therefore, should be applied to the total incurred losses, which is paid plus reserves. So be sure you don't make this common mistake. Third, applying a factor too early. Loss development factors prior to 6 months of development or maturity should not be used. Loss development factors between 6 months and 12 months should be used with caution. Prior to 6 months of development, a policy is simply too immature and the loss development factors are too high and volatile. Between 6 months and 12 months, The policy is still very immature, and the ultimate losses obtained from development methods would be extremely volatile. And the fourth common mistake is limiting development on individual claims. Companies with self-insured retentions often limit the development on specific large claims so that the claim is capped appropriately. However, it is important to understand if the development factor is a limited factor or an unlimited factor. The limited loss development factors are lower than the unlimited loss development factors and already take into account that some claims will be limited by the retention. Industry benchmarks are usually unlimited factors. Since the loss development factors assume unlimited development, large loss adjustments are reasonable in this situation. Therefore, if a claim would develop in excess of the retention with the unlimited loss development factors, it would be appropriate in most cases to limit the claim to the retention. In conclusion, loss development factors are the first analytical step in an actuarial analysis, but will have a very significant impact on forecasted or estimated loss reserves. For expanded information, please see the resources listed along with this video, or contact Sigma Actuarial Consulting Group at support@sigmaactuary.com. Thank you for taking time to watch this loss development factor training video from RISK66.